Thank you. Okay, so with that, I am on the right slide and I will pass things over to the VIDEA team.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the tech support and all the volunteers today. Really appreciate all the hard work everyone's doing. So this is the climate crisis, engaging the youth in your community by obviously VIDEA's climate team. And that's all of us here. And if we can go to the next slide, I get the wonderful opportunity of introducing my favorite organization. And yes, they do pay me to say that, VIDEA. So I'll just read this out to you here real quickly. VIDEA is a feminist human rights focused nonprofit that works in partnership with youth, other organizations, and Indigenous communities in Canada and abroad to create a more just and equitable world. We work to improve youth and community understanding of gender and human rights, and to build the capacity of organizations and communities to address human rights violations, to implement climate change adaptation activities, and to work towards reconciliation. Our group is the climate team, so we're focused more on the climate change adaptation activities. You can see a picture that is from the internship that VIDEA runs, BC, before COVID, where they would take interns over to Uganda and Zambia. It's actually my cohort. I think you can see my brother dancing in the back. And we're in Mumbai under a mango tree. So that's the gist of what VIDEA does. We have a lot of programming going on right now, such as our digital internship, which has been going amazingly well. I've heard some great reviews, as well as a project focusing on MMIW and 2S, and as well our climate team, and a conference that's coming up that will bring the interns and youth from Zambia together. And we can go to the next slide. So this is our wonderful climate team. This is our first training. You can see us here on Orange Shirt Day, and we're with our elder Shirley, and we're just learning a bunch of different things. So the Community Climate Justice Coordinators is built of a lot of talented, amazing people who I'm so glad I get to work with. We have a lot of good public speakers like Sunshine, who does a lot of work. We have great tech work with Patashi, and we have great Indigenous knowledge with Terrence and Cassidy, as well as Hayden, who is unfortunately doing a chemistry midterm today, so I don't think he'll be joining, and Eliza, who is our great mother and is currently dealing with baby Jessie, and hopefully she'll be able to make it. And we can go to the next slide and start introducing ourselves one by one.
Thanks, Shelby. So I'm not Cassidy, I'm Hilary. I coordinate the climate team, but Cassidy wasn't able to join us today, but she's a really important member of our team. So I'm just going to introduce her quickly using her bio. So Cassidy George is from the Sauk Nation and grew up there, lives there, and now works with us. And she is motivated to help and encourage youth to use their voices and make sure that they know what actions they can take on climate justice. She's super talented and loves to draw, paint, carve, sew, sail, cook, fish, so can do basically everything. And I'm going to pass it over to Terrence to introduce himself.
Thank you. I'm Terrence Scott. I'm also a member of Sauk Nation. I was raised in Sauk. I'm working with climate justice coordinators, VIDEA. Fascinated and terrified about the future, so it's an honor to be able to work with this climate team. I'm just happy to be doing what I can to learn, maybe help, change, make a difference. Pass it on.
Thank you, Terrence. I'm a skating in Shamrock Squad Chief Elizabeth Peters. Good morning, family and friends. My name is Small. I'm from the Litwack Nation. We are the Okemos people within the Sauk territory. My English name is Elizabeth Peters. And we can go to the next slide, please. I will hand it off to Patashi.
Thank you. Direction 1-1, good morning. My name is Patashi Pims. I am the Kam in Yakima from Kamchin, also known as Lytton, BC. I joined the VIDEA team about ooh, I don't know months now. I think it was like 4 months ago, I think 4 or 5. And I was actually just a week before the devastating wildfires that happened in BC. So I think I joined at a pretty good time to shed light on everything. And I will pass it on to Squash.
Good morning. I'm from Lytton, BC as well. I'm also one of the community climate justice coordinators. I'm also a member of the youth advisory group at CC UNSCO. And I've been involved with IDEA now for almost 2 years. I had the opportunity to go over to Zambia with one of their internships. And I was back early because of COVID. That was a wild experience. And I will pass it along to Shelby.
Nice. Thank you so much. Well, tanse everyone. My name is Sigwana Chuck, which means spring spirit in Cree, and my English name is Shelby. Feel free to use either or. I'm fine with whatever. And I am from Wabaska, Alberta, which is about 3 hours north of Edmonton. Can be shaved down to 2 if you drive as fast as my cousins do. I got involved with VIDEA from going on the internship to Zambia. I don't remember the year. I think it was about 2019. And every day I told Hilary when we're working together, I'm going to know you so much. And I think I accomplished that goal. I got involved in environmental work at a very young age after I experienced wildfire in my community and got to see all the different aspects of it from losing my house and the fallout afterwards. That's why I got involved. We can go to the next slide. Yay, okay. So I get to talk about my favorite topic, Wabaska. So Wabaska, also known as Wabaska Desmarais, is a hamlet in northern Alberta, Canada, with the municipal district of Opportunity number 17. So they're right beside each other. It's located about 3 hours north of Edmonton, like I said. Wabaska, which is in the location of the MD of Opportunity number 7's municipal office, consists of 2 historical communities, Wabaska and Desmarais. Again, they're only separated by a bridge. The hamlet has a population of about 1585, which is largely Indigenous, and I am related to everybody. The name Wabaska originates from the Cree word Wapaskow, meaning white grass. It was a meeting place for different people to come. You go to the hill with the white grass. And the name for the Wabaska River. Desmarais was named, unfortunately, after Father Alphonse Desmarais, the first missionary in the area. And if you can see on the right, there's an image of Wabaska. You can see we're in a pretty wooded area to the left, and you can see the lake that goes through on the right. I grew up fishing on that little blue bridge right there. Never caught anything, but always tried. And we can go to the next slide. So Wabaska, that's a beautiful picture of the lake, which I'll just explain it to you, is a view of the sunset of the lake in Wabaska. This lake provides subsistence fishing, drinking water, and recreation. And this is from Environmental Monitoring Alberta. And they do have to keep a very close eye on this lake, obviously, because this is a lot of people's main source of food. So some of the main concerns for the community are cultural preservation with the introduction of Catholicism in the community. Sorry, there was actually 2 residential schools in the area. I think one was Catholic and one was Anglican. So a lot of our cultural stuff and a lot of the trauma that was brought in, a lot of ours was lost and a lot of people try to avoid it. There's just a lot of pain there. So I kind of want to get back into working through this trauma, getting back to who we were in the beginning. Yeah, so youth engagement as well. One of the big issues is there's not a lot of opportunity outside of the sector of oil and gas. And if you don't want to participate in that, it can be very difficult to find something else. That's where we go into job support outside of oil and gas, something I want to do, which is becoming a bit different with how fires are spreading around. There's now, my cousins are running a program which basically is starting an all indigenous firefighting crew that will come out of Wabaska. They've been doing fantastic work so far. Clean water resources for all community members. Sorry. A few of our smaller lakes and smaller ponds that people will eat for water are unfortunately contaminated from the logging industry with mercury. And this kind of caused kind of a movement. Obviously, people couldn't live where there was unclean water and they couldn't survive there. So they had to move closer into town. So that was a loss of like a lot of hunting and trap lines that are important. They're passed down through families. I know my grandfather passed it down to my cousin, and that's just how it works. And when you lose those things, they're kind of just lost. The introduction of logging into the community, recently we've lost quite a few traditional paths that we used to have because the logging company did not ask the community what was okay to cut and what was not. And a lot of these people have traditional campgrounds as well that they go to for moose hunting season that are being affected by logging. Housing is obviously very scarce on my reserve. There isn't a lot of opportunity to get a new house, and a lot of the guidelines to building are very difficult for some people. And there's just not a lot of support and help. Food sovereignty is very difficult. We're a northern community. So this creates do you know the Northern Store? You may or may not, but it's very expensive there just from bringing things in all the time and how far everything has to travel to get there. So it creates this issue of people not being able to afford the food that's in the community, though not as bad as it is if you go like to NWT and stuff like that. It's still a big issue. And we don't have a source of healthy starch in our community. So it often ends up being like meat, and that can not be the healthiest for us. So wildfire preparedness in this community, there was a wildfire that spread very quickly. And unfortunately, they were mistreated in the way that another community's problems were seen as bigger because this was a smaller community, and they said that the Indigenous people should kind of look out for themselves. And yeah, it led to a lot of people losing a lot of their collected food, the little that they can collect, by the power being cut off the community. So all these freezers that people have that are full of food that they save, obviously were destroyed. And yeah, that's the difficulties. For the rest of Wabaska, and my hopes in getting engaged in their community, or my community, and working with them a bit more, I really want to delve into how we can heal together as a community, how we can start supporting our youth more and accomplishing their goals and reaching what they want to reach and doing what they want to do. And also, I really want to work with the elders. They're often in more remote areas of the community and can't participate in a lot of the events that happen or things like that because they don't have a ride or they don't have someone to take care of them. There is an elders village right now, but there is no transport back into to different cultural events. And that can be very difficult for people who don't have family who can drive them or things like that. And I'm done. If we can go to the next one, and I'll pass it off to the next person.
Thanks, Shelby. I just want to talk about my South Nation. We have some cool solar panels. South Nation is the name of 2 seaside reserves in Souk on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. South Nation constructed solar panels on several roofs at Reservation 1, and they've been around for quite a few years now, generating more power than is needed in the neighborhood, therefore creating a reserve power as well. Not only has this cut our energy consumption costs down to 0, but we're also able to sell the excess energy, which generates revenue. These solar panels have been a smart implementation and something South Nation's very proud of. South Nation always invites classes in nearby schools to come learn about the solar panels and get taught a little about how valuable they are for our community, as well as some other teachings about our traditions. When I was younger, I'd always go down to Reserve 1 with several of my school classes, and they would be toured around the neighborhood, and their band would share knowledge about not only the solar panels, but also the land around us and the shocking amount of food that is fresh to gather right in our own backyard. They're valuable teachings that our community is always happy to share with anyone willing to listen. Our traditions and values keeps us sustainable and happy. So it's always a blessing to get the chance to share. I didn't have much to say on it. So go on to the next slide.
Oh, Before we move on to you, Eliza, just a couple of thoughts from Cassidy too. So it was really cool. Our entire group was actually out in Sauk a couple of weeks ago for our very first in-person training since the pandemic started. And it was really cool to see these photos of both Terrence and Cassidy running around as small kids when the first CCP process was put in place. And so through that, some of the things that Cassidy was reflecting on is how she thought it was so normal to learn about our culture and how to live off the land, and how she thought that that was something that other youth got to do too, and how important that is. And so in doing this work, she really hopes that there can be more opportunities like that, both for youth in Sauk, but also in other communities, and just how important it is to be able to learn those things and to be self-sustainable, and how excited she is for that. And we can go to the next slide, and off to you, Eliza.
Thank you, Hilary. And the images you see here on my slide, the left image, the colorful map, that is our traditional names of the territories of my nation. And ours is in the middle, the Squatliam. And on a map, you know it as Mount Currie, Pemberton, and Whistler, BC. And Whistler is our shared territory with our neighbors, the Squat people. And to for ourselves, we're building to assert our rights. And the pros that we have going on for us are that we have a two-chief system and a council that is very unique. We have a political chief and cultural chief. And it works for us because we're able to work on so many things, and our council system has handed over their power to us so that we, the people, can know what's important, and they'll work on it to the best of their ability. And we've even done work on, we rewrote our Declaration of Rights, and we've recognized 5 pillars of sovereignty, which we're working on. We're on 3.5 out of 5 right now. We did a CCP in 2001. We're ready for a review that was due in 2011. And some of the issues of my territory are floodplains and muds. We're in a floodplain where mudslides happen. We have very dry fire seasons. We are experiencing encroachment still, and we have a major highway running right through our territory. And so we see the importance of asserting, like, hey, we exist, this is land to take care of, I need you to respect that. So we're installing symbols. As you can see on the right image, that is a actual roadmap of our upper reserve of the nation. And it really is designed as an eagle. And you can see that we're expanding on the same design, so we'll eventually have a whole eagle. And that is our road system. And the responses that we have to the issues that we deal with are, we have a flood response plan. Amazing how fast that just goes into play. We get the warning, okay, everything's in motion, and everybody's getting prepared together. And we have our own forestry ventures department, and actually our teammate Hayden, he's going to school to become the head of that department. I'm very proud of him for that. And also I'm very proud that we document everything. We have archaeologists, and they're training, they're mentoring, they're keeping up with technology. We have grant writers that are working on getting us that money all the time. And we are working on getting recognition, especially from like Whistler and Pemberton. We're needing to let them know we're not yours, we're our own people. And like you have no right to say we're yours. So please correct that. And we can go to the next slide, please. Here is some examples of how we are proactive as a community. We haven't been, we're very lucky. We haven't been hit too hard with anything very dramatic. So we're able to work on these things for getting prepared for the future, such as a water ceremony. As you can see on the left image, that we also do a bunch of surveys on how to better take care of it. And that's our health team that does that. And they carry it out very well. We also have our own college here. And that is where you can see the example on the right, that we do a lot of healthy self-esteem work, because we really strive to create more champions. We need more champions, and we want to create that space, and we want them to be Liltbot, because we believe in our power. And what that power has gotten us so far is things like we have a fire smart coordinator for the community and a community safety officer. We have our own fire department and a volunteer team also. We have an entire mental health response team. Like I said, they do the surveys and workshops, and those are constantly getting worked on. And as I said, our 10-year plan was done back in 2011. And with that, we recognized that our issues that need more attention are elders and the youth. So now we have an addition onto our elders complex, we have a youth center. And our immersion program is getting lots of attention, as well as our high school super courses. Again, that goes back to empowering people to become a champion so they can take on these roles that are important for us as a nation. A couple of other things that we do have are things like youth crime prevention coordinator. That's something new, very new. And our land use plan, our lands and resources department, they help us create parks and waters protection systems. Because as you may have heard, we have Joffrey Lake here in our territory. That's a really big, weird thing to deal with. And we're creating plans for that. We also just got a new tribal police station, and my cousin is actually the head of that. That feels super safe. Everyone should have one like that. We also take into account our fish count system that goes up every year, and that's an opportunity to teach everybody on how to respect the waters and understanding what time of year is okay to go in the water, when you should leave it alone, and all that good stuff. And we're ready for a review, and I'm excited to move along with that. I am CU, not a manager, but I can get the ball moving and keep it moving. And that is what I have to share with you. So I will hand it off to the next slide and my teammate.
Thanks, Eliza. So climate change, reconnection and recovery. So after the devastation of the Lytton Creek fire that destroyed 90% of the town and much of the surrounding area, it's become very apparent that we can no longer ignore climate change, as these climate disasters will continue to destroy if we don't make a change. Changes such as changes in Lilwat that we've seen. So where does recovery begin? Does it begin within your community, your family, or within yourself? I think it's all of the above, but I think it is important to focus and begin with yourself. If you don't begin with yourself, it becomes very difficult to help others. So starting with that, it's important to recognize how climate disasters can affect you, not only physically, but also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Next slide, please. Yeah, so living through a climate disaster. So when the human body goes through something such as a natural disaster, your body goes into a fight or flight mode. So responses are triggered by putting itself into a state called survival mode. And survival mode is an adaptive response of the human body to help us survive dangerous and life-threatening situations. So your brain actually shuts off certain parts of itself and amplifies other effects. So things like this can include loss of appetite, heightened senses, increased adrenaline production, difficult emotion regulation, and then difficulty remembering things. So things like this can be very helpful in the moment, but when it drags on, it can have a huge toll on the human body. Sorry, my cat's really wanting cuddles right now. So I think it's super important to talk about this and include mental health awareness in community plans. Plans are really focused on what to do in the moment. Physical things, housing, all very important things, but we can't forget about the aftercare. We can't forget about individuals. Community is great, but we can't have community if you don't have everyone there. Next slide, please. So navigating life after a climate disaster. So after a natural disaster is over, I say over, and it never truly is over. The physical thing maybe, but it takes a toll. So how do you turn off survival mode to start living again? So it's time to reconnect with yourself. And this is much easier said than done, but here are some things to keep in mind. Be patient with yourself. It takes time to recover, and it's different for everyone. Time to rediscover your past hobbies, find time alone or find time with family and community. I say consider therapy, but I strongly consider therapy. But also try traditional ways of healing, smudging, spirit baths, strumming, and dance. And also remember that healing isn't linear. So what I'd like to do now actually is, if anyone feels like popping in the chat, what are some of your guys' hobbies? What are some things that everyone likes to do to connect themselves or reconnect with family and your community? I'll just leave a moment of silence if anyone wants to hop in the chat, or even popping your mics on if you feel safe to do so. And that's the thing we're working on here at VIDEA, is being comfortable in the silence. So you'll have not an awkward moment of silence, I will not call it awkward, but just a moment of silence. Yeah, so Sequanachek said they started writing poetry after the wildfires. Eliza likes to feel the grass under her feet and reconnect with breath. All great things. Walking and moving your body. Sit quietly in nature and breathe. Yes, wonderful. All great things. I know me personally, just having gone through the fires after this summer, I found fun in humor with my family. We were all kind of separated for a little bit there, but all of this brought us all back together. So it was super fun. It was like we were little kids again, joking, laughing. I started reading books again. Wonderful things like that. We did go for a spirit bath in Chilliwack, which was amazing. We would go for like little dips here and there, but it was nothing like it was until like we had people bring us out, and it was great, very grounding. Oh, and hiking. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, well, we'll leave the chats open. Feel free to continue with that, but I believe that is the end of mine. So next slide, please.
Yes, so if anyone has any questions for any of the youth here, you can feel free to raise your hand and turn your mic on to speak, or pop them in the chat and I can read them out to any of our speakers. I have one question here for all four of you is why do you believe it's important that youth from different communities work together on talking about the climate crisis? I would like to go first.
I can. If you'll allow me, don't worry. Why is it important for youth from different areas to talk about the climate crisis? I think it's really important just to know you're not alone. I think, especially during what I was going through, I think 13 at the time, I felt very alone in what was happening. And it wasn't until that I got back into my community that I really started to get to that healing portion of my journey with accepting what happened at that time. And I think this as well is just like people understand what's going on. Like people know what's happening because of what happened with the reserve system and us getting put into undesirable land, as it's called. We're just so close and so connected to nature and untouched nature as well. And we see all these things and it can be very scary. Sorry. When you're say if you're in a city, you move to a city or something. I lived in a city for a little bit there. It's just you feel like no one knows and no one acknowledges what's happening, and you have people saying climate change isn't real and you're like, no, I can see it all the time. I can see it with moose hunting, I can see it with gathering different things. I can feel it. It's right around me, and it's very scary. It's very isolating. And I think when we get together, we just realize the power we have that when we're together, the power we have to communicate something to people that almost everyone will understand, and to work together to bring us back together. I think there's just been a lot of separation with Indigenous people. There's a lot of past infighting and just general not liking each other. But at this point, I think we really need to come together, all of the unique differences that we have, and start tackling climate change as quickly as possible, because it is happening. It is already affecting people and it's already harming people. And I don't want anyone to go through what I went through ever again. That was awful. And that's kind of why I chose to do this. I didn't want anyone to feel like their voice wasn't heard or that their problems and issues were not going to be understood. And I think that's where I want to go through with this. And that's why I find this group so valuable. Just we can understand and really try to get down to why we need to do this. That's my answer.
That's great. If I could also add a few things. I think as youth, we came into this world as all these climate disasters were starting. Growing up, I saw the floods. I had to walk the walking ridge to get across to the other side of town. We all grew up seeing all these horrific things and knowing that they weren't normal. They weren't okay like this. So we have a very unique perspective on the world and life. And we all talk to literally any youth, they're gonna probably say the same thing. What's happening in the world isn't okay. And we need to come together to make a change, and we will.
Terrence and Eliza, if you have anything to add.
My apologies, I got kicked out. Which question is it?
Why do you believe it's important for youth in different communities to be addressing the climate crisis?
Oh, okay, yeah, I did. It's really important. Well, this is now my second uh trip with VIDEA on the VIDEA team, and from experience, I can say that it's so important to, you know, I didn't know I was in like my own little bubble. I had no idea. And so like experiencing the other communities helped me see, like, get actual examples on the differences and similarities on our communities, as well as what what I like and what I now I know I need to question, such as I went to visit a community and they do not encourage the women to sing or drum, and they prefer them to be mainly for the crafting. And that just blew me out of the water, because here in my home it's so interchangeable. The men can bead, the women can go and skin a deer and make the drum, and it's accepted. And that's just what I know. So to experience those things and understanding, getting a better example on what to be grateful for and what to strive for, as well as the friendships we make along the way. The I couldn't do this work without my team, and we feel better with our organization. And this is one of the methods on getting to know each other and becoming more of a unit together, being able to understand those differences and similarities, and going really far, like being able to talk to each other on coming from such different places. It's really, really useful. Thank you. That's what I have to say on it.
Thank you, Eliza. And Terrence, do you have anything else to add?
Not really. I mean, it is super important for everybody to be involved because it affects all of us, what's going on this planet. You can do anything to get anybody involved. That's a huge win.
Thank you. So we do have a in chat open for you again, and it's from Ren Roberts. How do you know a community is ready to plan steps forward post a traumatic event like the Lytton fire? When is it appropriate to start planning, rebuilding, community engagement, especially when everyone will be in different stages of their healing process? It's a big question. Take a moment to think about it. And I can repost it in the chat for you guys if you would like to read it again.
Yeah, I can start. I'll tackle the first here. How do you know a community is ready to plan step forward post a traumatic event like the Lytton fire? When is it appropriate to start planning and rebuilding community engagement? I think it's like, well, I know it's like with anything traumatic. I think we kind of put healing on one specific person. They have to do all their own healing. And if they're not doing it quick enough for our own benefit, then they're just not going to be included. And that's something I really don't like to see, especially after events. I think what I needed after what happened in my area was I needed my community and I needed to talk about the future. And that's something that wasn't presented to me. And I think it was also not being talked about the future in the way that I thought it should work, or how I thought we should take care of each other. And that was something that was really difficult for me to accept. I thought maybe we could change a few things. We could talk about different things. We could, let's go. Fire is supposed to be a cleansing. And that wasn't what it felt like at the time. I felt like everything was being taken away from me and that I was just alone. But what I really needed at the time was someone to come talk to me and be like, well, you can do this. We can talk about this. So an appropriate start, I think, is just never leaving someone alone in their healing. I think healing is something that's to be done in community with other people. And we've kind of, as a society, kind of sequestered it into these very neat step-by-step 10 steps to getting over grief thing, when it's just not that at all. I know, like, I'm still grieving my grandmother, and she passed away when I was a child. I was very young, and every day I still think about her. A lot of the stuff I do is around her memory and what she did. And I think if someone excluded me because they said, well, that healing's not done because you haven't gotten over it, I'm like, there's nothing to get over. This is something that happened, and this is something now we have to work with and build into our process. So to go back in and to go into what our healing should be, it should be with our community, and it should be together. Even if they're at different processes, even if someone's really angry, even if someone's really upset, even if someone's grieving so hard they're curled up in a ball, they should never be excluded in rebuilding because we're scared of where they're at. I don't think any emotion, as drastic and scary as they can be, should be enough to exclude someone. And when we're building and replanning these things, we have to plan for those things as well. Everything is not going to go good all of the time. So we can't build a community around everyone being perfect all the time, around everyone being easily digestible at a time. I think moving forward, what I hope is when things like this happen, and unfortunately, in my head, they're going to start happening more and more, is that we just come together and that we really hold each other and we hold space for each other. And that's where the rebuilding comes. That's where the ideas of the future come. That's when you can look at a baby and it's like, oh, I'm going to build a daycare just for them. And I think that's where we need to start moving, go about appropriate times. When is someone done healing? When do we move forward? It's all part of it. It's all an intersectional piece of who we are. And we can't keep splitting ourselves off anymore as a way to move forward as efficiently as possible. I think that's just not realistic for what we need to do anymore. And yeah, I'll pass it off to if anyone else would like to answer.
Yeah, I just want to say, great, that was amazing. But yeah, I think specifically with Lytton, I mean, it's different for everyone, and it's different and it depends on the community that you're from. But in this situation, I remember when, I think it was like just a few days after the fire, we had government officials and people getting so riled up and so excited about the fact that we could rebuild. And rebuilding was a big thing on their mind, where they were talking about net zero buildings and all of this like amazing, like futuristic buildings and all of that. And I just remember being so upset. I remember being so upset because it was, where's the help now? Where is the support now? Our people are sleeping in tents. They're staying in hotels. They aren't comfortable. We're all so spread out. We're able to be with our community. So planning and rebuilding should happen after everyone's able to feel secure in a new place, to have stable housing, to have some sort of sense of community. So community engagement, I should be first and foremost in the rebuilding. I lost my train of thought there for a second. It will come back. Yeah, it's not. I was going so well there for a second. Yes, so I will end it there for just a second. But if it comes back, I will definitely just like hop in.
Yeah, anything else that you'd like to add to the chat, feel free to do that. Terrence and Eliza, do you have anything else to add?
Our biggest thing was the Mount Meager slide, and that was in 2011. And this is only speaking from my own memory, my own lifetime. And that actually affected the town more than our reserve here, our home here. So I don't feel super qualified to answer that, because that was they made a plan, they took care of them. Oh, a lot of our houses come ready for a flood. I can say that. But that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd actually like to Eliza. You had talked about that Lil Watt was ready to do a revision of their CCP. Is there anything you'd like to see implemented into the revision?
I'm very pleased to say that our healthcare team is already working on it. And what they're doing is creating a lot of surveys covering a lot of topics and making them into bite-sized pieces for us. And they're asking us so much, what don't you see here? What do you want to see here? We have this plan. Do you like it? Do you want to make changes? And it's totally utilizing the internet. And we also, in very safe ways through this pandemic, are still finding ways to make sure to get the information door to door, so that those people can also get their feedback, because we realize that not everybody wants to or has access to internet. And there's really fun prizes that come along with it. There's a lot of ceremonies that we're doing, and our community just did their second spirit retrieval from the residential schools. And so we're able to work on those things, and we're seeing them coming to life. Like, we see the houses coming up. We see the what do you call it? The solar panels on the Elders Complex Edition. And so it's keeping up that interaction, utilizing all the tools that you have, and writing it down and actually using it. Having the people on the team to run those things for the desire of helping all of our nation move forward. That's what's working for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Terrence, I have a question for you. You had mentioned teachings. Is there any teachings you'd like to share with us that you learned growing up?
Yeah. So we'd always be taking out on our canoes on the seafront there, kind of around territory, and it's around every corner. There's somewhere you can gather your own food. You could go fishing, go grabbing, and as long as you respect it, we were taught, it would always provide for you and your family. And if you're willing to go gather it, you can go out, you can collect dinner that week, maybe a month. And it's just a beautiful ability to be able to go out there and fish, hunt on your land. It's kind of a diminishing thing that we do. I mean, there's not as many of our youth getting involved anymore. A lot of them are busy. They're they're working, they're out there going to school. It's really hard to find the time to do these things, but when you actually get the time and you go out with one of your elders or one of your uncles, and they take you, they fish, they'll take you hunting. It's a great experience and really reminds you of where you came from. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. That was beautiful. And I think it really speaks on the over extraction of fishing currently going on. And if we do respect it, that we will have fish for the future and for our future generations.
Absolutely.
Shelby, I have a question for you. You had spoken on different resources and support for youth and elders. What resources do you believe Wabaska needs to support youth and elders in future projects or projects going on right now?
I'm so stoked that you asked me about that. One of the biggest things that I want to implement in my community is something called Cookham's House, which will be a mobile community center, which can go to different people's houses or different locations. Wabaska is surrounded by different smaller reserves, such as Calling Lake. And a lot of the things that they bring in, they just can't go over there. And they don't really bring in. The dream is when I build Cookham's House, which will be a mobile unit, basically, that it can travel out and go to those communities and go to those elders' houses that can't travel, or go to even the youth camps that happen and travel there and have different resources for people. I think we always say meet people where they're at, but we don't really go to their house about it. So that's kind of where this idea started from for me. And I think one of the biggest is to engage youth and elders in our programming and all this stuff is to hire them and to give them a livable wage and to also meet them where they're at. Some of them have children, some of them are caring for their siblings, some of them are caring for their parents. And these are kind of barriers that are put up for professional youth. But I think we can kind of start to let go of those different things. And that's why bringing in youth and the new perspectives is so important, because they don't have the kind of old 80s suit and briefcase kind of mentality of going to work. And I think we can start expanding what it means to be a professional and expanding what it means to be a youth and expanding what it means to work with other people once we start letting go of these different things that are holding us back. I mean, having a kid shouldn't be a career ender, you know what I mean? We should be supporting these young mothers and young parents and young fathers and working to build the next generation up. If we're going for climate, that's what I'm thinking about. It's the next 7 generations after me and the 7 generations before me that were thinking about me. And yeah, that's where I'm at. Just going and meeting people actually where they're at, being inclusive as possible, and trying to understand people as much as I can.
Thank you. So we have a few minutes left. Since this is on engaging youth and we have 4 youth here, is there, for the last question, is there any advice you'd give on how to engage youth within communities?
Get a TikTok account, I think, is a big one that admittedly we need to work on as well. I think it's a great way to get information out to different people. And it's just fun. I think we can allow ourselves to have more fun, especially in these where we feel so claustrophobic almost with the news that comes in every day. I know I get very overwhelmed with the climate news or the political news coming in. And it's just, sometimes you just need to catch your breath and just have some fun. And I think that's what youth are looking for too, because they're very intuitive, they're very knowledgeable, they're digital natives, they've been working online their whole lives pretty much at this point. And just give them a break. Just give them a laugh, I think at this point. It's just, yeah, I think that's what it is. Just trying to be in relationship with people and trying to make people laugh.
That's great. I think just also going on with that, a big thing that we've talked about is meeting people where they're at. And in this day of age, in the lives of COVID, everything has been, for us, has moved online. And I think that's a great way to reach out to people anywhere. We all work from different communities across BC and Alberta, opening things up to break down some of those barriers, creating a safe and inclusive space where people can come and feel safe and included, and comfortable to be who they are, along with, like Shelby was talking about, making TikToks, going and making space in areas that youth actually are. And yeah, I think youth, we have such a strong ages now to share that voice. Yes, I think that is all I have to say. Well, I have more, but it's not coming to me right now. But if anyone else has anything to add to that.
I can add to that. It's just to go deeper on what has been said, and one example on what we're doing here is we're going to our youth and asking them, what do you want to work on? How do you want to do it? And how can I support you? And that love has been given to us from our chiefs, and they just keep repeating it for us. They say, hey, I want to help you be successful in life. How can I do that to help you? Because there's so much that I don't know about this life right now, and especially on your perspective. So pick an activity, I'll go arrange the materials. Let's collaborate on a time, and let's get together and just chat and just learn this on our own, or learn this together. And I'm speaking on reference to, I'm actually going to host a ribbon skirt and ribbon shirt workshop for 9, 10, 11-year-olds, and have faith that they have so much awareness and they have so much hope. Let's focus on that and acknowledge them, and keeping working on holding that space for them to do so, and taking them seriously. Yeah, I'm so excited to hang out with these kids and say, like, what does your world look like? And just working from there. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We are free now to go on to our break. And thank you all so much. If you have any other questions, I don't know how to continue that. I'm sorry.
I think the Slack, we got a Slack.
Yes, Slack. Put them in the Slack room, and hopefully someone will be there to answer them.
Nice. Hi. Thank you so much, everyone.